Green Paces Security Policy Presentation by developer Unique Chambers. Overview Defense in Depth. The model below for defense in depth shows the multiple layers of security that should be used in order to protect businesses from attacks. We are able to see the policies, the focus, and critical access systems and data that are needed. The red indicates that it's a high priority and is very critical. This slide shows threat matrix. The threat matrix is a helpful visual tool to identify business risks, threats, vulnerabilities as part of a risk management program. Likely means that is most likely to happen, which includes data type, data value, string correctness, SQL injection, memory protection, polymorphic object. Priority indicates that this is of high priority and needs to be remediated as soon as possible. Low priority means that it's as much as important as low as priority, however, it can be left for a later time. Unlikely means this is unlikely to happen, however, we still should put preventive measures in so we can avoid any business loss. 10 principles of security policies. Validate input data, which means that we need to ensure that the data that we're putting in is good data. Heed compiler warnings, which means if you get a warning, you should check it out and see why did it come up. Architect and design for security policies. We need to design security policies that fits our needs and go over what fits our needs. Keep it simple, which means keeping it simple. You don't have to have a NASA type program to prevent certain attacks. You can create something that's simple that still will do the job at hand. Default deny. Default deny is meaning that you need to deny any default cyber securities that they're put in place. Adhere to principle of least privilege, which means we need to adhere to all principles, even if it's on the lowest spectrum of privilege. Sanitize data sent to other systems, which means that we need to monitor the data that is sent to other systems, such as we need to have a security thing in place that we clean the files before it goes to another system. Practice defense in depth, which means, as stated in the previous slide, that we need to make sure we remediate the critical things as well as the low priority things. Use effective quality assurance techniques, which means we need to use and be effective on the quality assurance, which is whatever's in our policies. Adopt a secure coding standard, where we need to put in a coding standard in place, utilize it, and adhere to it at every step of the way. Codes of standards. This is all the standards and the rules that's listed with it. This shows high priority, the likelihood, remediation costs, priority, and the level of threat. Encryption policies. Encryption in rest. We shall encrypt data at rest using full disk encryption at the server level, as well as database encryption using MySQL server, and provide a backup strategy. Encryption at flight. Use up-to-date secure libraries. Use public key infrastructure for end-to-end protection on message bodies or attachments. Use managed file transfer or SSH with expiration date on the link. Password access. Utilize data link prevention mechanism built into cloud services. Encryption in use. Utilize identity management mechanism to confirm user roles and identity. Allow conditional access to the tool's functionality based on the user roles and other parameters. Use IRM, digital rights management, to apply persistent protection to documentation. AAA policies. Authentication. Process of identifying a user using valid credentials of user and password. Control how a user is authenticated using a secure local database or external AWS server. Prefer to use tried and trusted protocol. Authorization. After the user has been authenticated, authorization should be used to determine which resource and functionality the user is allowed to access and which operations can be performed. Accounting. Monitor and log any user events while they are logging in and out or utilizing the resources, as well as user uptime or any other configured perimeter. Unit testing. The unit testing below is looking at assertion, mainly used in unit testing and how these assertions can be helpful in both testing and ensuring proper data is being used in other applications. The standard code is labeled STD-006-CPP. This is another part of the unit testing that shows assertion and what is being utilized. Unit testing. Unit test is a way to testing a unit, the smallest piece of code that can be logically isolated in a system. As you can see, this is kept simple. In most programming languages, that is a function, a subroutine, a method, or property. This is automation summary, and we will go on with the tools. Every software development approach has a pipeline or a series of steps the software goes through during its life cycle, which is considered of the model on the previous slide. DevSecOps steps and stages are mostly automated, prioritize security, and depend on collaboration between teams. Parasoft C/C++ test. This is one of the tools that can be used and used during this design. It verifies test stage in pre-production. During the transition/health check and maintain and stabilize stage in post-production. The other tool is Intruder. Intruder is used during transition and health check stage and post-production to perform penetration tests. Load Ninja is another tool that is used in the verify and test pre-production for stress testing. Used during the maintain and stabilize in post-production. Recommendations. Some recommendations is assess your current policies and compare them to the best practices and requirements in your industry and jurisdiction. The assessment should cover the scope, content, format, and communication of your policies, as well as the alignment with business objective and risk appetite. Identify the gaps between current policies and desired state. A gap can be a missing policy, an outdated policy, a conflicting policy, or a poorly implemented policy. Last but not least, communicate and train staff on the new and updated policies and their implications. We should use various channels and formats such as emails, newsletters, intranet, webinars, or workshops to disseminate your policies and raise awareness among employees. You should also provide training and education programs to help staff understand and apply the policies in their daily work. Conclusion. In conclusion, we should always be 2 steps ahead of hackers, which means we should be vigilant in upgrading policies and constant monitoring of databases. We should be diligent in training staff concerning new policies and what to look out for when receiving a phishing email. Follow and review defense in-depth strategies and understand security policies. This is our reference and this is our conclusion to the presentation. Please have a great day.